Hey guys, it's Mike Monty, one half of Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. And we want to reach out to all the fans out there who have supported our show to say thank you. Thank you for making 2021 one of our best years. And one of our best years was because of Anchor. Anchor, the way that you can have your voice heard. You can be just like us. Record your own podcast. Use the Anchor tools to edit your podcast. Use it on a phone. Use it on your computer. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all with Anchor, they're totally free. So be just like Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh. We're looking together for a great 2022. We've got huge guests coming on board. Oh, yeah. You probably wonder why Jimmy's not here right now. Well, he's prepping for one of the best interviews we're about to have, and we're going to surprise someone with. So hang aboard with us, and don't forget, be like us and use Anchor.
M&J Video Games and Collectibles, sport and non-sport cards, wrestling items, autographed items. We buy, sell, and trade. M&J Video Games and Collectibles, located at 1049 Queen Street, Southington, Connecticut. Call us at 1-860-479-9223 or 860-93-GAMES. M&J Video Games and Collectibles.
Hi, it's John from Under the Table Hot Sauce. I'm here with my friend, the star of the show, Jimmy Pharaoh.
Yeah, what's up, JB?
Nah, nothing.
It's been a hot summer, and for all your barbecue needs, you can go to underthetablehotsauce.com. 13 unique flavors to choose from, created and bottled in a Long Island kitchen. Underthetablehotsauce.com. Let's go chow, JB.
Let's do it.
All the flavor, twice the burn.
Thinking it over, the things you said to me. Started with something, with nothing, now we leave. So you were with me for a while, but now you're gone. And you know, wherever you go, I'm not far behind. I'm not far behind. Starting all over. Too many times we tried, pulling us under. Our time's been swept aside. So you were with me for a while, but now you're gone. And you know, wherever you go, I'm not far behind. I'm not far behind. Oh.
What's up there, ladies and gentlemen? How we doing this evening? You know what time it is. It's time for In the Dungeon with the Taskmaster in the house and AA, Andrew the Reinforcer Anderson. And we're very, very proud to bring Mr. Herb Simmons to the show. Quite possibly one of the oldest, longest running wrestling promotions out there today, and that's Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling. So today, you're going to have two huge history buffs. The amount of wrestling that we have today, folks, and knowledge and talent and everything is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for coming on today, Herb. We appreciate you. I don't even know where to start, so I'm gonna have to hand off the mic to you, Herb.
Well, I appreciate the invite. Anytime I can spend either in person or on the airways with the likes of you and Kevin Sullivan and Andrew, it just makes my day. I've been looking forward to it because when you talk about knowledge in the business, Kevin Sullivan is the guru, as I tell everybody.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Herb. Herb, I have a question for you.
Okay.
When did you first promote your first town? How many years have you been running?
1973.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
And, as you know, you and I've had a few discussions in the past when you've been in the business is nothing, as you know, is what it is nowadays. And back in the day when we ran all of southern Missouri, all the way through St. Louis, Illinois, up into butted up right up to Indianapolis, where the Bruiser ran. And I mean, it was, my first encounter with Dick the Bruiser was not a good one, but we ended up being friends after that. But back in the territory days, as you know better than anybody what that was like.
Yeah. I'm sure the Bruiser didn't like you being in his backyard, right?
Yeah, he didn't. And then when we finally had our first meeting, he really didn't like it because I thought we were going to have a deal, and it was going to be he told me, it'd be 90-10 business proposition. And I said, well, man, that's more than I thought. I didn't think I'd get 90%. He said, what do you mean? He said, you're getting the 10%. I said, well, no, I'm not. And but again, we went on after that, of course, shortly, after that is when he blackballed Spike Huber, his son-in-law, later on. And Larry and I was the only ones that was working Spike anywhere, because Dick had kind of put the black ball on him everywhere. And but things got worked out, and we became friends after that. In fact, it's kind of ironic, I ended up buying his TV library from his wife here about a year and a half ago. So I got the Bruisers TV library.
Now, when you say Larry, we're talking about the legend himself, Larry Matysek.
Yeah, Larry Matysek, Sam Muchnick's protege. He started with Sam when he was 16 years old, didn't even have a driver's license. His dad used to actually drive us over to the office. And when I tell you, I was two things. I was like a kid at a candy shop, and then I was a sponge. I just sit there and soaked up. When you walk into that office, and there'd be a Gene Kaniski sitting there, or Whipper Billy Watson. And, Sam always told Larry and I, what you hear in this room stays in this room. He opened up the files to us, which I have all those files now. I have anybody who's ever wrestled in St. Louis. I have their matches, who they went against, the time limit, what they won the match with. And they took and put them on the old 3x5 recipe cards that Grandma used to keep her recipes on. And they would take a typewriter, and they would put Kevin Sullivan took on Andrew Anderson, and Kevin won in 5 minutes and 33 seconds with whatever hold he used or whatever. And every match that Kevin had would be on those cards. And so I was fortunate enough to get them from Larry when he passed away. And then all of the programs that they had, the oldest one I got goes back to 1934, even before wrestling at the Chase. It started on TV in 1959.
Wow.
And then I've got those tapes. The oldest tapes I got from that area is 1962 with Pat O'Connor against Lorenzo Parenti, Johnny Valentine on there against Bill Frazier.
Wow.
So you have all the greats. So you and Kevin alone could go open up a wrestling museum, just the two of you.
Well, if I ever got the chance to do that, I couldn't think of anybody better than Kevin to do it with, because like I said, I can only sit here and, I've never been a worker, but a guy like Kevin who's done it all. I mean, and I'm not just saying that, I tell that story all the time. If there's somebody out there and they're wanting to start a wrestling promotion, if they don't get Kevin Sullivan and pick his brain, they're doomed to die on the vine.
Well, Herb, look what Kevin did to SWE Fury. He came on board,
Prime
and
example.
300 people to 600 people to 1,200 people to 3,000 people.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Herb. But I got a question I want to ask you, and every time I get there, I get brain dead. Now, in St. Louis, was Thesz promotion before Sam's, or how did that work?
Well, yeah, because at one time, Thesz and Sam were not the best of friends.
Right, I heard that.
Because of the promotion deal. And of course, back then, you had the era, and I'm sure you heard the story of the original Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers.
Right.
And when they had the big split on there, but Fez was actually started before when Sam came out of the military, and they wanted to have they were going to have this big rivalry, but like I said, back in the day, and Kevin, everybody thought St. Louis was part of the territory that that's all Sam ran was St. Louis.
Right.
Kansas City was even separate from what Sam did. And,
Right.
But Rogers, I remember Thez, when they were going to strip Buddy of the title, he avoided them. He did quite a few no-shows, and they actually snuck Thez into the arena. And they had said they was going to put Buddy up against somebody else. And they had Thez come down the aisle and get in the ring, and he got up in there and he stuck his hand out and told Buddy, he said, "We'll either do this the hard way or the easy way." And he took the title. Wow. But then Thez and Sam turned out being the best of friends. And so.
Andrew, Matty, at that time, correct me if I'm wrong, please. At that time, there was another organization that Thez was a champion of. It was the National Wrestling Association, which fell under the state athletic laws. And it also had its own champion, and they had Orville Brown, if I'm correct, NWA.
Orville Brown, yes.
And that was the NWA, and they were going to have a big match in St. Louis that when Sam and Thez got together, and they were going to have a merger. Andrew, stop messing with your thing. They were going to have a merger, but Orville Brown was in a horrible car wreck and could never wrestle again. So did they just award the belt to Thez?
Right, and I think I'd have to check, but I think the organization was Mississippi Valley Wrestling or something like that, and they ended up when Orville had that accident is when they ended up, and that was kind of what was the lead up to where him and Sam was going to get together.
Okay.
Because Thez was originally from St. Louis, and and of course Sam was that peacekeeper, man. I'll tell you, I saw him work miracles over the years. And whether it be with Fritz or whoever it would be, of course, back in the days, you had guys like Pinky George and people like that I'd be sitting there in the office with Sam and Larry, and one of those guys, like I said, either Gene Kaniski or Whipper Billy Watson or Kowalski would be there. And I mean, I was that sponge just soaking up all of anything I could hear.
Herb, I got to interrupt you for a second. We have a very special guest coming in over here. NFL legend, Tony Richardson.
Hey, Tony.
How we doing?
Tony, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. We're here obviously for a nice fundraiser. Unfortunately, as a young man who got diagnosed with cancer, so out here supporting and just that's what it's all about in my post career, is just trying to lend your name and your platform to try to help other people.
Tony is one of the players that has given back more than anybody has in the business, and I just want to thank Tony for what he's doing here today on St. Patrick's Day. And we're here at the Hasbrook Heights VFW, and he just came out to say hello to everybody and to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day, right, brother?
Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thanks.
Hey, Tony, you're good.
Reinforcer Andrew Anderson, family, our NFL family with our wrestling family, we sort of cross pollinate, right, brother?
Well, crazy enough, so I don't know if you knew this. Where I lived in Fort Knox, Kentucky, I would go to back in the day, in Louisville, Kentucky, we would go to the old school with my dad to the old school farmhouse wrestling. I've been a wrestling fan for my entire life, and my granddad, it was we watched wrestling it was a religion in our household. So it's definitely a pleasure to be on the show.
Andrew, a good man, Tony. Thank you for helping back.
Absolutely. Tony, are you a cigar smoker, brother?
I do like cigars. Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes,
Andrew, grab his info so I could, like I said, since he gives back, I'd like him to sit. Now that the weather's getting nice and warm, I'd like to send you a couple sticks to sit back, chill, and enjoy, my man.
Herb,
And as a Jets fan, can you come back and help, please? Please.
He'll definitely come back. And Herb, we'll love to bring, if we come up to Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling, we'll love to bring Tony with us.
Yeah, that'd be
Oh
awesome.
man, yeah, you know, when you talk about fundraisers, we just did a big one for a fire chief that was diagnosed with cancer, and we just raised him just right at $40,000 on a wrestling show. So
Wow.
I know what you go through, and my hat's off to you, Tony.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. We got another special guest. This guy here is big time. You know, I don't know.
No, Tony's big time. Tony small times himself, but Tony's big time. This guy's an NFL legend, and I love you, buddy.
Yeah, love you too,
I appreciate it, brother.
Cool.
All right.
Let me go get our special guest.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Next person coming on is going to be, he's one of my childhood heroes. So I'll be right back.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, brother, for sure.
Thank you. How was that for a little surprise? Huh?
Man, that's a great surprise.
Tony, and the surprises are going to keep coming on this show. Because Herb, Tony was just one of the first surprises on the show. So we're going a little peripheral over here, not just pro wrestling. So
I hope to God that for any of your other surprises that you're keeping your clothes on, because no one that is a surprise. I'm just saying.
Hey, Herb,
Yes, sir.
I got another question.
Okay.
I have heard that of all the guys that ever went into St. Louis, that Sam said the biggest draw of all times was Buddy Rogers. Is that what he said? Is that?
Oh yeah. Buddy was such a draw anywhere, but in St. Louis, I mean, and when I pull out those tapes or the programs, and you know, he had matches against Cowboy Bob Ellis, you know, people like that, you know, at Kiel Auditorium, you know, 12,000 fans would be there, and that's why I used to always joke when people would say, "Oh man, nobody sold out these arenas until Vince McMahon came around," and I said, "Man, wait a minute." Sam Muchnick was selling out Kiel Auditorium way back in the day. Yeah, he had his low crowds of 4,000 or 5,000 people, but you know, when you'd have Gene Kaniski against Kowalski, you know, sellout crowd, 12,800 people. But you're right, Buddy always put the butts in the seats in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Kevin, Herb, I have another special guest over here cameoing right now on our thing. We have James Courtney, who is the legendary Michael Myers in the new Halloween Kills movie coming on, and the current movie Halloween Ends.
Yeah, Halloween Ends. Yeah. How you doing, guys?
Hey,
Hey.
baby.
Thanks for jumping on with us, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah, man. You know, how you guys doing?
Good. How you been doing?
A little sore, man. I just wrapped Halloween Ends. Got
Did
about
the-
times, not as much as you in your lifetime, but I got beat up.
When is the movie coming out? When is the premiere?
The third Halloween I've done. This one is coming out October 14th.
Oh, good.
I took an ass whooping, man.
Yeah.
But you know what's great? The great thing about it is that he took an ass whooping and he still had the balls to get on with Kevin Sullivan, Herb Simmons, Matty Rock, and myself on In the Dungeon. You know that? Because I mean, it's all about this guy right here. This is the real deal right here. This guy is one of the toughest SOBs to ever put on the Michael Myers outfit. This is, if Michael Myers had to go up against anybody, he would have to go up against James right here. And my money's on James.
Well, you guys, I have such deep respect for you, what you guys do for a living and have done, man. It's freaking amazing. I was telling my Andrew here. I grew up. My grandmother was a huge wrestling fan, and we'd all gather in the living room and watch big time wrestling. Man, it was freaking awesome. And if anybody said it was fake, boom, she knocked me.
Get a little of the backhand. No grabbing backhand.
It was a fist. It was a fist. She was an Irish.
All right. I like Grammy already.
Right. It was on the top of the head. Boom. Damn. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now we're cross-pollinating a lot with this show. So we're going off the cuff over here. And I just want to say happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. And we have a hometown Irish boy right here. James is Irish. He's old school, just like Kevin, and he has a lot of roots going back to.
Oh, yeah. Back to the IRA.
Hey, Andrew, asked him who his favorite wrestler was back there when he used to watch it.
Who's your favorite wrestler?
Oh man, I've been hitting the head a lot, so
yeah.
So
We all have something in common, all right?
Too many chair shots.
He's not exactly a Hulk Hogan fan.
No.
Actually, he's very good friends with Damian Priest,
Yeah.
current WWE.
Yeah.
Will you please tell him I said hello?
I will, because Louis Martinez, aka Damian Priest, broke into business. I was one of the guys who helped break him in. He broke in under the Monster Factory, and then he worked me a lot on the.
I know all about him. When I was at Ring of Honor, there.
Ring of Honor, yeah, I preached him on Ring of Honor. Yeah,
and Damien and I have been actually talking. I was telling that, and we were talking. Andrew and I were talking about earlier. And Andrew and I stay in community. Damien, we stay in contact a lot, and he's got that it factor. He's got that it factor. He's willing to throw down 100%, but he's got something special. You know what I mean?
Outside of wrestling. Outside of wrestling.
Yeah. So and it's beautiful to see, like my boy here, in the movie, The Wrestler, and all the other stuff, the television movie stuff. I mean, it's great to see the cross-pollination of what real talent can do.
Yeah, look at The Rock. He's the #1 movie star in the world.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I remember talking about the integrity and honor of true warriors, and guys who make girls who make their living doing, throwing down, selling out their bodies, bringing joy and happiness to people every freaking day, every freaking night. But when you meet these people, you see it. You see the honor, the integrity, the warrior nature, and it's something I so appreciate, and what all of you have done. I'm with you guys.
And Kevin, we're going to see if Gabe join us at Chilla Theater.
We're
going to try to join us at Chilla Theater for an appearance with us.
Okay, let me just say this, Andrew. Herb has done so much charity work that, he has started the precedent probably of the old-time promoters that gave back to the communities. And Herb is a guy that's given back and given back and given back. So, like you said, it's good to see guys coming out. The guy you just had on, the football player. They're giving back to the community, and Herb has done that since he's gotten the business, because Sam was like that, right, Herb?
Oh yeah, so, Sam, he loved to help those nonprofit organizations, and that's what we do. Like I said, we just raised that fire chief who's got cancer, ton of money, and we work with the police departments, the fire departments, church organizations. That's what it's all about. It's all about community. And but I'm so excited now. When this movie comes out, I'm going to go see this movie, and I get to say, I talked to that guy.
Yeah,
man. How cool is that?
Herb, the wonders never end when you're with me. That's all I got to say.
He's not lying. He's not lying.
When I'm in Vegas with you, I see that all the time.
Ladies and gentlemen out there watching Monty and the Pharaoh Network, just remember this, that there's one thing that you can always depend on In the Dungeon with Andrew Anderson, Kevin Sullivan, and Matty Rock, is that the wonders never cease to amaze you or me. And right here we have.
I have to agree with that. I have to agree. Of course, my lawyers told me not to say about 96% of the stuff. And if we do, witness protection doesn't really have enough money in their budget to protect Andrew and the people around him. So yes, I have to wholeheartedly agree with that. Hey, ladies and gents, we just have to take a quick couple seconds for a studio break to hear from our sponsors. So give us 30 and we'll see you in a little bit. Hey there, kids. We are back after hearing from the people that help pay the bills. Take it away, AA.
Hey, listen, guys, I just want to thank you guys for coming on the show, and you and Tony Richardson, James Jude Courtney, a.k.a. Michael Myers.
The Shape.
That's right, The Shape. But how was it wearing that William Shatner mask?
Well, it's no longer William Shatner's mask. It's as bold as my face. So anybody that puts it on is going to die.
I need to borrow that then and have some people try it on. Like,
Let me tell you something. We just discussed, Kevin, the Shapes walk, the way Michael Myers walked. And he told me, he said he prowls like a cat. How did you describe it?
Well, it's a combination of one of the, several martial arts I practice, Aikido. And Aikido, your feet never leave the ground, right? But mostly I study my cat because, watch a cat when it's moving slowly every muscle, every tendon, every cell of your skin, you feel. And so when I'm moving, when I'm doing, I feel every supportive muscle. I feel my skin. I feel my teeth. And that's what I think what becomes so alive about the character. And you guys know about characters. Right? So it's that's part of the magic. The other part is there's a Stone Cold Killer inside me that I particularly kind of love.
Cool. The devil has the killer inside him right there, right?
I know you do, bro.
Wait, which American Legion are you at, Andrew? I got to put in a call. Get him.
James, I want to James, you're on the show.
Thank you,
Kevin,
brother. We appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend.
Love
Thank
you guys.
so much. Love you too,
brother.
buddy. Thank you, Ben.
Good talking to you.
Hey, Herb, I have another question.
Okay.
Is it true that Sam was a baseball reporter?
Yes, he was. He was a
Really?
sports. Yeah, he enjoyed sports and he was a sports writer, and that's where he made a lot of contacts with there in St. Louis, and not only in the sports area, but in the political arena. There was a gentleman named Mel Price, who was one of the most powerful congressmen in the political circle, and him and Mel Price, the congressman, were personal friends. In fact, Mel had a seat at every match when he was not in session and not in Washington. He'd be at the auditorium or at the arena. In fact, I don't know if you ever heard the information about the antitrust lawsuit that was filed.
Sure did.
I've got all that paperwork and everything. And Mel Price was the one who got that stay for Sam, and it's all spelled out in the lawsuit. And so there was a total debt of gratitude that Sam owed Mel and everything was above board. It's just that Mel was able to work it through the system, and Sam always appreciated the friendship Mel Price had for him. But yeah, he met Joe Garagiola,
Right.
was the
while.
first play-by-play announcer on Wrestling at the Chase.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
The Chase was a very unique place to wrestle. The people came in dressed up, and they had brunch, wasn't it? Was it brunch or was it lunch? Well, whatever. They're sitting there having meals, watching, and it was, for the production at the time, it was way ahead of its time.
Well, Joe's brother, Mickey Garagiola, who ended up being a ring announcer and for Larry Matisek and at Kiel, but he always told the story that on the Wrestling at the Chase nights, that you'd call up your lady friends and say, "Come on, we're going to go out to dinner tonight. Get all dressed up," and they'd get dressed up, and "We're going to the Chase," they'd say. And the Chase was the place. Some of the biggest stars ever performed at the Chase Park Plaza Hotel. And they'd pull up there and get out and go inside with their lady friends, and they'd walk into that big, beautiful ballroom with chandeliers hanging from the ceilings. And there's this wrestling ring in the middle of it, smoke-filled, guys sitting there smoking their stogies. And these girls would say, "Wait a minute, I thought we were going out to dinner tonight." Mickey tell them, say, "What? There's the hot dog vendor over there. We're going to do wrestling tonight." And but on some of those tapes, I've got ladies got pearl necklaces on. They got their the tables have the tablecloths on them. What's kind of ironic is back then Anheuser-Busch was the sponsor of Wrestling at the Chase, and to this day they sponsor me and make my posters and everything for my events I have. I got the Anheuser-Busch logo on my posters.
That's so cool.
No, Herb, I want to ask you a question. How surreal was it to have the NWA do their pay-per-view about a year and a half ago from the Chase, or a year ago from the Chase?
It was good. It should have been done differently. And Billy Corrigan, who I'm talking with on a weekly basis now, because he would like to have these tapes that I've got to work with, because I've convinced him that if you don't know what the NWA stood for and what it meant and how it got to be the way it was, all you did is bought 3 letters, and that was NWA. But it was good. I was a part of that because, we just finished up the second book called Wrestling at the Chase. Larry Matysek and I did the first one 18 years ago. And then the author, Ed Wheatley, on this book, he finished that up. And in fact, we got a movie that will be coming out June 4th, a documentary on PBS 9. And it's going to be the production's just about done with it. But to go into the ballroom and in my day job, I do a lot of political stuff also. And I go to the Chase Park Plaza quite often, and no matter what function, what type of meeting that you have there in that Corsan room, I've never been there in all these years that there hasn't been a conversation that somebody that's been a part of that group, whether it be politicians, law enforcement, or whatever, they'll start talking about, man, do you know Dick Bruiser used to perform in this room right here? Or, Lou Thez. Wrestling at the Chase is still talked about today like it's the #1 program. And that's what we do. We're trying to keep those memories alive. And I think we're doing a good job at it.
You're doing a great job, Herb.
Now, Herb, for people who want to, you spoke about 2 books. Are they able to go on Amazon or online or get those books directly from you? You want to share that?
Yeah, you can go on Amazon. The first one was the Wrestling at the Chase by Larry Matysek, and it told more of the inside story of everything, kind of like what Kevin and I are talking about here tonight. Only Larry had much more of a perspective on it because he was a protege of Sam Muchnick. Like I said, got his first paycheck from Sam Muchnick, $25 back when he was 16 years old, and and Sam taught him the ins and outs of the business, introduced him to all the greats. And of course, then him and Bruce Brody became good friends like Brody and I did. In fact, every year I do a Bruce Brody memorial. This year I've got his wife coming back in, Barbara Goodish, and Dutch Mantell will be there. But the second book, Ed Wheatley is the author of that. It's the Wrestling at the Chase book. In fact, when they called me and asked if I would participate in this one, I told them no. I said, I've already helped write a book on Wrestling at the Chase, but they asked if I would meet with Ed, and I did. He convinced, he does a lot of St. Louis Browns books, and he's won 2 Emmys from documentaries he's done on them. So we met 2 or 3 different times. He convinced me he could do a good job, and he did. The book is fantastic. It's really selling good. And then the next thing I know, they're asking me about if I would help with this film. And so I hooked them up with quite a few people that could take them back in time. And so it's supposed to come out. But yeah, Ed Wheatley is the author of this new book, Wrestling at the Chase. It's what they call a coffee table book full of hundreds of photos from back in the day, stories. About 90% of the photos and memorabilia is from my collection. And so, in fact, if you look back in the credits on the back, it says if it wasn't for Herb Simmons, this book wouldn't have been made possible. Now, I think that's BS, but I'll take the
I don't BS. You've got a lot of input, and you're a wrestling historian. I don't consider you a promoter. I consider you a wrestling historian.
Yeah. You were talking, the gentleman was talking about the movies, and I think, Kevin, you mentioned The Rock. I mean, I remember when Rocky Johnson would bring Dwayne to the shows at the Kiel Auditorium, and Larry's wife, Pat Matysek, would actually have Dwayne sitting with her in the audience while Rocky would be going out performing. And wow. He had an afro in fact, I got a picture of him. He got an afro about this big back then when he was like 5-6 years old. Yeah. And I talked to his stepmom, Sheila, quite frequently. And I told her, I said, I'm going to send you a copy of that and see if Dwayne remembers it, But yeah, look at him now. It's probably the top rated movie star in the world,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you saw him as a child. So how cool is that? Kind of like what just Andrew
That's
just said.
awesome.
You got to legitimately follow the history. And that leads me to the next question I have for you. So this obviously will mark now your 49th year of doing this promotion. So obviously we know COVID put the kibosh on a couple things. Everybody out there is probably asking now, is everything really roaring back to life? And where can they go online to see where they can go get tickets and come out and see this?
Yeah, last month was my 49th year. And like I said, I was going to hang it up a couple years ago, but I got a great locker room that, I got some guys that's been with me for 20, 25 years. And of course, they're getting up in age also. But my day job, I'm the 911 coordinator for our county and the emergency management director. So for 2 years, I was deeply involved in the COVID, doing daily briefings and working with the local health departments. The 1 year I had 32 shows booked that we lost every one of them. But now we are literally, I think I've got maybe 2 Saturdays left for the rest of the year, because what's going on is for the last 2 years, those nonprofit organizations that were relying so heavily every year on raising funds didn't get to have them. So now they're all coming to the plate saying, hey, we want to have these shows. So, every day the phone is ringing off the hook, because even though wrestling in my area is oversaturated, there's probably another dozen organizations within 50 miles around me, and they're all drawing 30, 40, 50 people to a show, and it's a sellout. Well, yeah, that's what you're building seats, So
Yeah.
if that's the case. We had a show 2 weeks ago, and I had 300 fans in my little community building where Kevin, you were at.
Yeah.
And that's pretty, it started slow when we came back. We had 100, 150 would show up. But now, the TV's doing good. We're doing just like back at Sam did. We tape every 4th week. We tape 4 weeks of TV. And then this coming Monday, I start on Intrigue TV out of St. Louis. And of course, we're on YouTube. We have our own Roku channel. It's a SICW Championship Wrestling. And there's some underneath the SICW Explosion. When Larry was still with me, we probably back 10, 12 years ago, we had TV then on Charter Spectrum or Charter cable back then. And I've got over 500 episodes in the can that we aired back then over about a 9-year period. And not to count all of the wrestling at the Chase tapes. And then, of course, like I said, I was fortunate here a while back to purchase the Bruiser's library from his wife before she passed away.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, your relationship with Bruce Brody, you had quite the relationship with Bruce Brody, Frank Goodish.
Great guy. Miss him every day. Like I said, there's this, that's a big stand-up picture behind me with Larry Matisek and Sam Mushnick there.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank was actually with Larry and me the weekend before he got murdered back in 1988. I owned a bar in Cahokia, Illinois, and the upstairs part of that we had turned into the Bruiser Brody Lounge. And when he would be in town, he would be able to come over there and relax and didn't have to worry about anything, if he was going to be in a few days in the area. But that weekend, that was our 1-year anniversary, and he spent that whole weekend with us. And the ironic part, we talked about that Sunday night before he left out to go back to the hotel, was that I said, Frank, you're on the road all the time. You're traveling to all these places. Don't you worry about going out there. We were the first independent promotion that he ever worked for.
Wow.
So my Championship Wrestling. And that was because of Larry Matisek. And he told me, he said, but I got to make a living. He said, I got to go to Japan, where he made a lot of money in Japan, of course, and got to go to Puerto Rico. And of course, 7 days later, I'm over at Whitey Herzog's Beer Garden in Union Station in downtown St. Louis when Larry calls me and says, hey, Frank just got killed. And I said, I thought maybe a plane crash or something, And he said, no, Gonzalez stabbed him in the locker room. And I thought, holy, and Larry was never a BSer. If Larry's telling you something, it's a straight giving. And but And his wife, Barbara, just kind of spilled the beans here about a month ago on a podcast she was doing. Frank and I had talked, was really close to inking an agreement, a contract where we were doing a business together. And Larry was going to be part of that. And I never had said a word to anybody all these years because it was really nobody's business. But Frank had a great mind for the business, and plus he had a lot of connections in the sports business, and he was going to be an agent for several sports figures, along with the wrestling. But Barbara let that cat out of the bag, and of course I called her that afternoon and said, "What are you doing selling that?" And she said, "Well, people need to know why you are so strong about Frank and why you do the yearly Bruce Brody Memorial." And he was my dear friend. And so I figured, well, she let the cat out of the bag, then I'll talk about it,
Wow. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, Barbara, sweetheart. I've gotten close to Barbara over the years, as well as Wahoo's widow. It's just one of those things that, how life has a way of bringing people together, And
well, Frank taught me a lot about business. The first time we wanted to bring Abby in, I thought, well, this would be a piece of cake because he'll call Abby and get it all set up. And he said, "Nope, you call Abby." And I said, "What?" He said, if you don't do it, you're never going to learn how to work these guys like they're going to try to work you. And he said, because Abby would be probably the biggest guy that's going to try to work you. And he says he'll try to hold you up for money, and he'll want you to send him it up front and all this and that. And he laid out everything I needed to tell Abby. And sure enough, when I got Abby on the phone, it was the hardball Abby trying to hold me up. And so I played on along for about 15 minutes on the phone with him. And I could see he wasn't budging. And I said, "Okay, finally," I said, "I'll let Frank know that there's no deal." And he said, "Who?" I said, "Brody." He said, "Oh, Brody had you call me?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "When do you need me there?" So, just inside tidbits like that help me. And I would like to think today that when I pick up a phone and call, I used to be able to call Terry Funk with no problem. Even the guys, the Tito Santanas, Ricky Steamboats, I think they know that what I tell them is going to be there. And I think Kevin can attest to that,
Oh, without a doubt, your name is gold in the wrestling business. Your name and your word is gold. So, I mean, you're looked upon as the godfather of wrestling now. So.
Well, I don't know if that's the right thing, but Sam I'll never forget. Sam liked to play the ponies, and there was a racetrack, Collinsville, Illinois, the Fairmont Park racetrack, and that's where I actually had my first meeting with him. Larry said, "Come on, we're going to go to dinner tonight." And when we get pulled up there, I knew he hadn't told me, but when we got there, because I know Larry didn't like play the horses, and I said, "Well, we meeting Sam?" And he said, "Yep." And we went in, and Sam liked to eat steak, and they had a nice little steakhouse there. And then I may have told you the story, but he's sitting there, and he's got that steak knife, and he's cutting that steak, and Larry's sitting to the left of him. I'm sitting to the right of him. And he says, "Larry tells me you want to know more about the business. You want to be a worker. What do you want to know?" "Hell no, I got more brains than that, And he's cutting that steak up. And so we're talking, and he took that steak, and I'd always heard how ruthless the business could be, especially on territories, and here I'm out trying to run these little independent shows. And he took that knife and he stuck it up to his ear, and he said, "I'll tell you what," he said, "you keep these open." He pointed it to his lips and said, "You keep those shut, you'll go a long way in this business." And he says, "If you treat the boys right, they'll treat you right." And so 49 years later, I've lived by that. And I've told that story 1,000 times, I think. And I've tried to live by that, because I think that that's what's helped me be able to pick up a phone and call a Kevin Sullivan or an Andrew Andrews and, "Hey, I need you on my podcast." And, both of you guys jump right on there and do it,
Absolutely.
Without question. And you would have lasted 49 years if it wasn't for your reputation, and congratulations.
Well, when Harley died, and I hadn't even realized this, but Bill Apter and I was talking, we all know Bill, great guy. And Bill and I was talking one night, and he said, you know, Herb, you're the last living connection there in that St. Louis area to that St. Louis office after Harley died. And I didn't even think about that. And I got to thinking, well, yeah, you're probably right. So, you know, there's guys that, you know, like Baron von Raschke still alive. He was a regular. He was a regular there. I mean, look at the years you were in and out of there. I think you told me your first match was against was it Pat O'Connor or somebody, or who was it?
Pat O'Connor and he brought me in to be his tag team partner. I was a young kid then, and Pat and I, he just liked me for some reason, I don't know, but he always booked me in St. Louis, and I'd either be in a single or with Pat or with the late great Celerat Thomas.
Oh yeah, great guy.
Yeah,
great.
So I mean, Pat really watched out for me. In fact, a little bit of trivia: Flair and I were on the first time I was in St. Louis. Was the first time Rick was in St. Louis.
Well, and I don't know if I ever told you. You know how Rick got to St. Louis?
No.
Larry Matisek. Actually, they had sent some tapes in from the Crockett's, and we were in the studio in the control room at KPLR Channel 11, and they had put the tape in that Crockett had sent, and by lo and behold, there's a match of Rick in action, and Larry says, "Man, look at this guy, man. He can go." And so O'Connor happens to walk by the door, and Larry opens the door and says, "Hey, Pat, come in here. You need to take a look at this." And he comes in there, and Pat looks at it, and he stood there for 2-3 minutes. And Pat says, "Oh no, he's too small." He said he won't put no butts in the seats. And he walked out of the room. And Larry is kind of standing there like, wait a minute. So to his credit, he gets a hold of Sam and says, "Hey, can you come over to 11?" He said, I want you to look at something. Sam, about a half hour later, Sam shows up, gets in there, and he stood there for like 5 minutes. He told Larry, he said, "Get on the phone with Crockett and tell him I want him in here." And Rick could tell you that. Rick's told that story several times, that thanks to Larry Matisek, that's how he got to St. Louis.
That's pretty cool stuff. Like I said, that's I see. I gotta coerce you guys, you and Kev, to do a wrestling road show of the history of wrestling. I can't even fathom how cool that'd be. What do you think? What do you think, AA? I know AA is like. Well,
I got to tell you real quick. You know that I did a show at the Missouri Athletic Club. This is the elite place. If you thought the Coruscant Room, Kevin, was something, the Missouri Athletic Club is a private organization of judges, lawyers, doctors, federal judges, you name it. I think the starting membership is like $30,000 a month or something like that. It's really expensive, but they contracted with me last year to put on a show there. They've done boxing in the past and done real good, but so I meet with them. It's all tied in through the Wrestling at the Chase book that we did. And so we have the meeting, and right away, they said, "Well, give us 5 names of legends." In fact, Kevin, I had your name on there. I had DiBiase's name on there, Von Raschke. I gave him 5 or 6 names. A week later, I get a call from the guy that's putting it on, their entertainment guy. He says, "Well, I'll tell you what we want." He says, "We want Ric Flair." And I said, "No, you don't want Ric Flair. I've dealt with Rick before, and I love Rick to death, but Rick has a history. And we all know what that is, sometimes not showing up." And they said, "Nope, we want him. We don't care what the price is." I said, "Okay." So I negotiate the price with Rick's people. I get it down. I get him half of the money sent to him. But I told him I was smart. My contract with my show was separate than the contract for Rick and his appearance, because I knew what was going to happen. And I'd already called DiBiase and said, "Hey, pencil this date in, because I'd like to have you there." And I thought, if nothing else, I'd bring him in, and then I'd have him and Rick both there together. And but I told the guys at the club, I said, "Now look, Rick is gonna," and this was right when the airplane trip from hell broke. The story broke.
Right.
Well, I'm sitting at home Sunday night, and the agent calls me and says, "Hey, Herb, how you doing?" 5 minutes, he's stringing me, and I know what he's calling me for. And I finally said, "Ryan, come on, it's Sunday night. What the hell are you talking about?" He said, well, he said, Rick's in his room locked up. He ain't doing no appearances, so we're going to have to cancel. I said, hold on 1 second. I called the guy from the club, hooked him in on a 3-way. And I said, Jim, I said, this is Ryan. I said, he's got some news for you. And well, what's that? He said, so what are we going to do? Now, when they put the tickets on sale, they sold every ticket out in 17 minutes to their membership alone. It wasn't even open to the public. And he said, oh my God, what are we going to do? So this is 48 hours before showtime. And so Ryan says, I just can't get him to do it. He won't do it. So he gets off the phone and Jim says, well, what are we going to do? I said, well, my contract is with you. My show, my ring announcer, my everything that I'm bringing is going to be there. Yeah. I don't know what you're going to tell your guests, but I didn't want to do them that way. So, and Ted comes through for me again. I said, let me see what I can do. So the next morning, 8 o'clock, I'm on the phone with DiBiase. And I said, hey, I need a pinch hitter. He said, let me guess. Rick stood you up. I said, didn't stand me up. He stood the club up. And so Ted came in and did it, and I got him a good payday for it. And but otherwise they'd had just my own little local show there, and you got all these judges and lawyers and doctors sitting there looking to see a legend. Right. And Ted came in and did a great job, as he always does.
Yes, as he always does. Right.
Well, I want to thank you, Herb, for the show, for coming on the show, our esteemed guest. And, I've always spoke highly of you, and I love you to death. And we have a great time every year at the Cauliflower Alley Club. And Kevin, Papa, take it away.
Oh, well, I just want to, Herb, I know we've talked about it. This is the book. This is the book. Did you enjoy it?
That is the book, I'm telling you. In fact, I was going to ask you, where can they get that at? Because I'd like to get some extra copies myself to have at the show. Because when I tell the people that I know that's going to be really interested in it, they say, oh, you're full of shit. It can't be that good. I said, I'm telling you, here, take mine and read it. And then they're coming saying, holy shit, I said, I'm telling you, all the books that are out there, yeah, there's some that's probably more entertaining to me. But when you look at the stories in there and the way it's all put together, I could see a volume 2 coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is she gonna do another one?
Oh yeah.
Another 2. It's like Kevin's face, like,
It's going to be a trilogy. Yeah, it's going to be a trilogy. And you can get this on Amazon.com. It's called Old School, as you know.
Yeah. I've got it on my desk. Yes, sir. Great book. It took me, I'm a slow reader because I like to digest all that stuff because I'm going, wait a minute, that sounds neat. So I go back and read it again, But no, I really do appreciate it. It was good.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And Maddie's working on something right now as we speak.
Little razzle dazzle could be coming up with that. So you're the first person we've dropped that little hint bomb on. So keep your eyes and ears open to where this next stop may be on here. And first and foremost, I want to thank you, Herb, so much for being on the show tonight. Much love and much blessings for what you brought for 5 decades. Like I said, I can't thank you enough. I know Kevin and Andrew can't thank you enough for all that you've given to the fans and everything that you've given back. I mean, to know that you're doing this and it's still running strong all these years later. Much love, much thanks.
Very good.
See you guys real soon next week.
I appreciate it
so much for being on.
Again, Herb. And
thanks, guys.
Herb, thank you for being you. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Kevin. And let's, like I said, let's work. I know we talked briefly when we were in Vegas about maybe you guys getting in here. You guys talked about maybe having a sponsor to help with some of the flight or something. But Andrew, let's talk about that maybe towards June.
I'm looking forward to it. I actually want to issue an open challenge to your champion Attila.
Ooh. All right, so you guys just heard it, guys and gals. Open challenge. And with that, we're going to lead you out. Much love and peace out from In the Dungeon. Peace.